主要就成件事都比較清楚，一個就係政治問題，一個程序問題。程序問題嗰個公正性係好重要。一開始咧，葛輝先生係即係都有淨係見兩間嘅機構，一間就係社聯，一間就係小童群益會加呢個 IPA。咁當然呢個喺嗰個即係選取兩間去即係談話嗰度咧，係咪一個公正嘅問題咧？葛輝先生都可以回答下。咁後來咧就喺嗰個評審委員會嗰度咧，似乎其他嘅部門即係葛輝以外咧，就都揀取呢個即係社聯，但唯獨是就係葛輝先生佢自己本人咧就揀呢個共融基金。咁所以呢個嚟講咧，其實就即係正話方敏珍女士提嗰個異常現象啊，兩個異常現象咧。如果我睇晒所有嘅文件咧，喺呢個期間正咧就係葛輝先生咧。其實佢係考慮緊咧，即係將呢兩個嘅機構係合二為一。咁所以你話唔知道點解兩間會合作咧咁樣？呢個構思會出咗嚟咧，其實又係正咧，就係葛輝先生咧，佢本人就喺嗰個期間咧係做緊呢啲工作。咁當然啦，就之後就完咗嗰個嘅程序，再去到嗰個即係個委員會。但係即係其實成個嘅焦點咧，就係最後。葛輝先生同佢嘅上司咧，大家有一個好重大嘅分歧。葛輝先生就堅持咧，就係要兩個合作，兩間合作。但係似乎咧，即係謝小姐佢哋呢一度咧，就希望係兩間係分工分區。咁所以我想問下葛輝先生，點解兩間合作就唔係一個政治嘅決定，兩間嘅分工就係一個政治嘅決定咧？呢個我就好想知道。另外一個嚟講咧，就係如果程序上反反覆覆完咗個程序，跳到下一個程序，你唔啱唔同意，又翻去之前嗰個咧，呢種嘅反覆，呢個程序上嘅唔公義咧，的而且確係可能會引起政治嘅問題嘅，請公眾係會關心噶嘛，5個機構都會關心噶嘛。咁所以你同唔同意呢個咧？即係公眾上，如果程序上過晒，你翻轉頭，其實都會咧係引起公眾上一個嘅關注。最後咧就係葛輝先生有提到咧，佢所有文件有冇提到話，即係民建聯話去即係拍門呢啲嘢，但係佢啱啱就講咗。咁佢就話有啲就喺政府裏頭講，有啲咧就喺即係政府外邊講。咁我想問啊，葛輝先生咧，究竟你係聽到邊個，同埋係政府內部嗰度，政府外邊嘅人講咧？我覺得佢要講得好清楚咯，呢點。
嗱喺
3個問題。
OK， 3個問題。喺葛輝先生回答問題之前，我要講一講。而家我哋距離即係呢個會議結束係得15分鐘，咁我可以加15分鐘，即係換言之仲有半個鐘頭。咁咧就而家排緊隊第一輪未講嘢嘅咧，就有何秀蘭、潘佩璆、葉國謙、譚耀宗同埋林健鋒。咁嗰度已經25分鐘㗎啦。OK， 咁即係換言之咧，第一輪講完就冇得講㗎啦，係嘛？好嘛，第二輪就排唔到㗎啦。咁就不過我都可以喺度同大家報告一下，我哋6月13號咧係有個正常嘅，即係一個例會嘅，係咪？原本我哋即係話要決定開呢個特別會議之前咧，我哋就已經將呢個葛輝事件擺落呢一個即係下次例會嘅議程裏邊。咁所以如果大家覺得即係話嗱，我哋今日都講未完啦，可能有啲人又要提出即係討論係咪要用 P&B 啦。咁我哋喺下一次即係會議嘅時候咧，我哋可以考慮同政府或者我哋秘書處大家傾下，將原有嘅議程抽咗佢，開多一次2個鐘頭嘅會，係咪？如果大家冇意見咧，我哋就你有意見係
嗱，主席你都收到我哋俾咗封信俾你老人家咧，就要求政府提交即係10幾個文件啦。我唔知道政府有冇正式回應咗，因為如果呢啲文件我哋收到咧，我哋希望有機會睇咗之後再開會咧，係比較有意義啲。咁當然希望如果13號之前，阿蘇局長、蘇處理局長係可以交到俾我哋，咁當然係最好啦。如果唔得嘅話，佢可唔可以即係喺呢個會度話俾我聽有幾多俾到我哋，幾多俾唔到我哋？
嗱，我哋因為時間所限啦，或者我一陣間俾少少時間佢答，即係關於個文件嘅問題啦，係咪？嗱，我哋即係都即係將大家嗰個要求咧，就一早就轉達咗俾即係政府㗎啦，係咪？咁佢究竟可以交幾多嘢出嚟咧？今日就即係擺明就乜都冇交啦，係咪？咁所以一陣間我哋可以俾少少時間，即係局方去回應呢個即係20位立法會議員要求提出。即係佢交文件嘅，一陣間佢可以回應嘅嚇。咁就嗱，而家我哋真係盡量嗰個時間咧，嗱，而家已經係45分㗎啦。所以即係阿葛輝先生請你盡量簡單答劉江華3個問題。
分幾鐘啊？點解？
知道，俾翻你，唔使驚。
Certainly, I think the first question was how is it that I considered that collaboration was not political but dual implementer was? This is a question which I struggled with myself extremely hard. When the evaluation panel finished its work, the evaluation panel had, by a clear majority, scored Hong Kong CSS as the highest scoring bidder. Compared to other members of the evaluation panel, I personally had almost 20 years of business experience, and I attached greater weight or saw a greater difference in the business proposals, the merits of the two different business proposals. I ended up scoring e-inclusion. My personal score was for e-inclusion to be marginally ahead of Hong Kong CSS. In coming to that conclusion, I had in fact listened to the views of colleagues as we discussed one another's draft scores, and I'd made some changes to my scores. So I was in a position at that point where the evaluation panel had come up with a clear recommendation. I personally had marginally taken a different point of view. But I think everyone on the evaluation panel, despite the different overall scores, generally felt that the one proposal had strengths in one area and the other proposal has complementary strengths in different areas. So I certainly felt quite genuinely that that if we could find a way of getting them to collaborate to take the best out of both, that would be in the interests of the low-income families. My problem was that I also knew that this was a very politically convenient decision to make, and it was. And I struggled long and hard with my conscience to try and ask myself, would I have proposed collaboration even if I knew nothing about the political requirement? And ultimately I decided that's what I would have done, as I had done on a previous programme, without attracting any suggestions of impropriety. The second question was, do I accept that it would have been wrong merely to go back to the previous scores? In fact, ultimately I did accept the advice of the review committee that the procedurally correct way to proceed was to bring a formal halt to the original RFP exercise. I felt that this damaged our chances of successfully achieving collaboration, because by making it a much more formal approach, it would be that much more difficult to establish the necessary empathy between the two bodies. But nevertheless, I agreed to go along with it. My ultimate disagreement with the review committee was not about what we should do, but about what we should about what should be said about why we were doing it. The review committee went out of its way to try and find some procedural flaws in the evaluation process, although it did conclude that it was generally fair. My sense was I wanted to propose collaboration because I thought it was the right thing to do, not because I thought that there were some procedural reasons that meant that we were unable to pick a single winner. As the controlling officer, the review committee's mandate was to give me advice. It wasn't to make the decision. I was very clear with Miss Jay that I was quite prepared to take direction from her and the review committee about what I should do, but I couldn't possibly take direction about what I should think. And we had many discussions in which I was quite adamant that the government should not say to the LegCo panel that we had been unable to select a single implementer. I was quite happy, because I thought it was correct to say that there were two leading proponents had emerged, but I was not prepared to give the impression that we had been unable to select one of them. Rather, we had chosen not to select either of them because we thought there might be a better approach. It was this debate when Ms. Chair told me that it was not necessary to tell the whole truth to a LegCo panel unless there was an inquiry. So I think that answers the second question. And the third one is the question about knocking on doors. When I was first, I'd mentioned that the Secretary had mentioned this to me, although I got the impression she didn't particularly approve of it. And this was also confirmed to me by someone I spoke to outside the government. I don't have their consent. I want to, again, respect that confidentiality. What I will say is that when this was said to me, I was actually very surprised, because I knew IPRO-A. I knew that they didn't have an extensive network of local delivery agents, and that the promise that had been made that they would be able to somehow use participation information in this programme to bring electoral advantage to a political party seemed to me to be actually quite unrealistic, and that the proposal that they had by then put in to us involved the BGCA, and had suggested that other local NGOs would also be allowed. And I felt that actually IPRO-A were as much a victim in this, that something had been put on them to deliver that they wouldn't in fact be able to deliver. This was again another conversation that I had with Miss Jare, about, on occasions I said to her that she might want to reflect upwards to the political layer, that the political advantage that they hoped to get from their interference couldn't in fact be delivered, and that might make them more receptive to doing something that was proper and in the interests of low-income children. It's that sort of conversation that could not possibly have been misinterpreted in any way as being merely about the general advantages of IPRO-A.
好嗱，我哋俾多咗時間你嘅，因為其實第三個問題大家都好關心嘅，咁我哋俾佢答埋啦。咁但係下次我請你回答嘅時候咧，盡量簡單，因為我哋冇時間㗎啦。OK， 不過你唔緊要，下一次仲有得開會啊。好，下一位係何秀蘭議員。